Hello, today we are going to be focusing on MSPS 1-3, which is a standard that focuses on synthetic materials and how they come from natural resources and how they impact society. Our learning target for today is LT8, and you are focusing on understanding the environmental impacts of using and producing synthetic materials, mainly plastics. Let's start by looking at why plastics are so commonly used. So what are the advantages of using plastics? First of all, it's very cheap. You can make a lot of the same product quickly, which is called mass production. It's very easy to melt, mold, and color plastic into many different items, and it's very durable. It won't break very easily. You can see here it's weather resistant and chemical resistant, and it's also recyclable. Now let's talk about the negative impacts of plastics on the environment. First, plastics are not biodegradable. What that means is that bacteria and other decomposers, and remember we learned about decomposers a while ago, they cannot break down the plastic into minerals and smaller compounds for plants and soil. That means that if a plastic bottle gets thrown on the ground, the plastic bottle is just going to stay there for hundreds of years and not break down into different elements and go back into the soil to be reused by trees and plants. Instead, plastics are what we call photodegraded. It means that UV radiation, which comes from the sun, it breaks it down into smaller parts, into smaller pieces of plastic. And this usually happens where the plastic is able to receive the sun's rays. So if it's dumped in a landfill where it gets no sunlight, it's just going to sit there for hundreds of years. And then number two, the chemicals in plastic can get into our bodies every time we use them. It really depends on the type of plastic, but you can see in this picture, you see the plastic debris actually has a lot of different kinds of chemicals, and some of these are not being used anymore, like such as DDTs. And BPAs are kind of not being used for food products and products that involve packaging food, but all these other ones are still kind of around us, and these chemicals are known to cause problems with, our hormones and reproductive systems, not only for us, but for a lot of living things in the ecosystem. Okay, negative consequence number three. Many marine organisms consume or eat the plastic, which causes problems to their cells, bodies, and the entire ocean ecosystem. And since we rely on the oceans for oxygen and food, we will also ultimately be affected by this. And this picture kind of shows you, um, the three common species that are eating the plastic, as well as getting entangled or getting stuck in the plastic. And you can see seabirds, sea turtles, and sea lions are predominantly being affected. But it's not just these three; it's a lot of other kinds of organisms as well, such as fish. And that brings us to negative consequence number four. The organisms can also get trapped in plastic waste, and that's what these pictures are kind of showing. And if organisms cannot move around, they're more likely to, die or not be able to survive. Last consequence, number five, is manufacturing plastic uses a lot of energy, most of which comes from fossil fuels. And that leads to increased greenhouse gases and air pollution. And this is what this picture shows. Um, Now, the plastic debris in the ocean usually comes from the land when people don't recycle or they don't put plastic in even the trash can. What happens is it's on the street, and when it rains, or it gets dumped into the storm drains, and it leads right to the ocean, and that's when it goes into the ocean and collects in the ocean. So these are statistics from 2008. In the United States, most of the plastic was not recycled. Only 6% was recycled. Today, currently, the statistic is a little bit better. I think it's about 30%. However, that still is very little compared to the amount that's being wasted into the landfill, where it's not going to biodegrade or decompose. It's just going to sit there. So why are not all plastics recycled? Well, it really depends on the type of plastic that makes the product. There's 7 types of so-called common plastic or recyclable plastic, but some of them are not being recycled because it's difficult to recycle. It also depends on the shape of the container. Some are easier to recycle than others. And finally, the market demand. So depending on how many people are willing to buy products with a certain type of plastic around the world, it's it becomes more expensive to recycle certain plastic products than others than to just buy new plastic and just make more of the same plastic. So again, it really there's a lot of different factors that are around not all plastics being recycled. Now let's talk about the 7 different types of plastic that we just saw in the other picture. So the first type of plastic with the plastic symbol number 1 and PET or PET under it is called polyethylene terephthalate, and commonly it's used in plastic bottles and storage containers. And this is actually the most commonly recycled type of plastic. 31% was recycled in 2014, which is pretty good. And 91% less energy is needed to make recycled plastic. The second type of plastic is called HDPE, high density polyethylene. This plastic is commonly used in detergent bottles, yogurt tubs, milk jugs. These products here are all made from plastic number 2. This is the second most commonly recycled type of plastic. 16% is recycled yearly in the US. And one ton of this plastic that's recycled reduces 1 ton of carbon dioxide released in the air. So it helps reduce the greenhouse gases as well. The third type of plastic is called PVC or polyvinyl chloride, like this. This type of plastic is very tough. It's usually used in pipes. Maybe you've heard of PVC pipes. It's just referring to a type of plastic. Garden hoses, a lot of toys. This plastic is usually very, very difficult to recycle because of its toughness. And these things, because they are so tough and they don't degrade very easily, these products are very easy to reuse. So people are encouraged to reuse these products rather than to recycle them. And overall, less than 1% is recycled yearly in the US. Okay, plastic number 4 is known as LDPE or low density polyethylene. This type of plastic is commonly used in grocery bags, plastic packaging, and some of the bottles that you see in the grocery store. Only 13% is recycled yearly in the United States, and most recycling programs don't accept it because recycling them doesn't create enough profit. And in California, there's a big push to ban these plastic bags because they are not being recycled and it's causing a lot of pollution in our oceans. Plastic number 5 is polypropylene, PP. And the common uses for this are straws, diapers, tape, potato chip bags, toothbrushes, and a lot of like plastic bottle caps you can see here. Only 2.1% is recycled yearly, and again the same deal with this one is most recycling programs don't accept it because recycling them doesn't generate enough profit, and it's difficult to recycle them. Only certain places take the polypropylene. Okay, plastic number 6 is PS or polystyrene. It's also known as styrofoam. And the common use of this are plastic cups, plastic utensils, egg cartons, some plastic pens, takeout trays, and plastic utensils. This type of plastic never gets recycled, and actually it accounts for 35% of all trash in landfills, which is a significant amount. This type of plastic is really lightweight and can fly out of recycling bins and can litter the environment very easily. And it's also highly flammable or it can catch fire very easily. So try to avoid using polystyrene or styrofoam. The last type of plastic is plastic number 7. Plastic number 7 is sometimes called PC or polycarbonate, or it can be all other types of plastics that doesn't have a label on it. And sometimes There'll be a mixture of different kinds of plastics meshed together, and that's why there's no label that can distinguish it. And that's also why they can't be recycled, because it's a mixture. Some common things that uses these other types of, or a mixture of plastics are CDs, phone cases, phones, car parts, these huge gallon water jugs, some lab plastic or baby bottle plastic too. Um, and none of these are recycled, unfortunately. Um, some of these have chemicals mixed in that make it dangerous. A lot of these contain what we call BPA, bisphenol A, which is a chemical known to cause damage to the body. So there's been a big push to remove BPA from, you know, water bottles, reusable water bottles, and things like that because it's dangerous. But a lot of other plastic products that don't have labels or use number 7 plastic still contain BPA, which is uh, not good for the body. Okay, so now let's get into the details of how plastic recycling actually works. So first, plastic items are collected, and that happens by you putting them in the recycling bin. Then we manually sort them. So there's people that are grabbing and sorting these plastics into the 7 types and figuring out which plastics can be recycled and which ones can't. And usually if a product has some plastic, but it's mixed in with other materials such as metals, like for example, mechanical pencils have metals, they're usually not recycled. They just get thrown into the landfill. So they get sorted here. Then we chip them. So they crush them or chip them into smaller pieces for melting. And then we wash these smaller pieces in like a detergent or soap like chemical that washes the contaminants away out of the plastic. And then we pellet them, or we make the smaller nurdles. The wash plastic is chopped up into pellets, and these pellets are then sold to new manufacturers and remelted into new products. And it's usually a lot cheaper to buy recycled plastic than brand new pellets. And you can make fabric or reusable bags or whatnot. But that's how plastic is being recycled. So now let's talk about alternatives to using plastic. Obviously, this is a really huge topic, and one slide here is really not going to do it justice. We're going to be doing a bigger project around this issue and this idea, but in general, some alternatives or ways you can help reduce the plastic pollution that's happening is one, we can start manufacturing more bioplastic, so plant-based plastic products that are able to decompose or biodegrade. What you made in the lab uh, last week is bioplastic. It's made from corn and natural plant materials. Obviously, there's still some things that need to be worked out with bioplastic, and it's expensive to make the bioplastic. So those things need to still be worked out with this. Second, you can buy products that have labels that say it comes from natural resources or recycled materials. Just being conscious of, what kinds of plastic products you buy or where the plastic comes from makes a big difference because your money is determining what kinds of products are continuing to get made. And the more people buy or favor recycled products, the more recycling is going to happen, and there's going to be more money put into actually trying to recycle the other types of plastic. And third is try to avoid using plastic products when possible. You know, for example, when you are eating something from the store and you're reaching out to grab a plastic fork or a straw or a plastic lid or something on your cup, like think twice, like is it really necessary to use that straw or use that plastic fork, or can you use like, your own fork at home, or do you not need a straw? So think twice before you take certain types of plastics, especially ones that can't be recycled. Lastly, here are the sources that I used for my information for this presentation. You should check these websites out for more information. Thanks.